Hello, everyone, and welcome to a little bit of a rant on the razor cunt. Another one because these are fun to do. Wire Wrist is a guy on the internet who, for those who are uninformed, is very much just a contrarian guy. It's nothing really remarkable about him these days. There used to be back when he did Metal Mythos on a person known as Michael Jackson, uh, which is probably his best video by far, because it actually debunks a problematic conspiracy theory against Michael Jackson, where people for decades by that point had alleged without evidence fraudulently that he was a pedophile. So it is a great video like that he made. Great service, right? Um, and I feel like that it was good. But that's not the video I'm talking about today. I'm obviously not going to criticize the points where he's right, because that would be retarded, right? We aren't Alyssa Mercante here. We criticize people where they are actually factually inaccurate, and not where they are factually correct, because that just sounds very unproductive to me. You know what I mean? Razorfist, as you may know, is a very staunch defender of the United States copyright system, which is funny because one of his examples is a perfect example of why he's wrong, which is the Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Or what he takes out the wonderful part, either because he is dumb and doesn't know that it is actually a series of books from the year 1900, not a movie made in 1939. Now he says celebrating the 40s. I'm pretty sure because 1939, most of the people who watched it would have probably enjoyed it more thoroughly in the 40s than the 30s. You know what I mean? So like that isn't really criticism, but funnily enough, it is not the first movie based off the books. In fact, the original movie was made by the author L. Frank Baum, who wrote the books. Funnily enough. Um, so yeah, now, obviously, the 1939 adaptation is the best known, and probably the best. I mean, it's definitely the best that's alive. Because fun fact, for those who are wondering, how long the film was around, I'll just give you a hint. There was a movie. The original movie came out in 1908. There was a movie in 1910, a movie in 1914 based off one of the sequels, another movie based off of another sequel, also from the same year, and another third movie also based off of another third sequel, that same year. In fact, same day. They were released all together as a three movie grindhouse. In 1914 on September 28th. And then you also have, of course, probably the oldest one that you'll probably be able to view to the full completion of, which is the 1925 adaptation. And then there's an animated short, all before the 1939 classic. Now, the reason why that's important is there were people who were definitely making movies without it needing to be public domain all over the place. Like, yeah, the creator made a few, but he didn't make most of them, right? So a large amount of these movies were not made by the creator, and the reason why, um, is because it turns out someone makes a movie right off of your book. That's a good when it comes down to it. Now, the way I view it, right, the way copyright should work, because I view there is a way it could work, right? The way copyright should work is exacts, right? So see, this is the thing. Like, he wants Witcher to be illegal as a book series for some reason. And it's not going to happen, buddy. You can simp for your other elven competitor all you want. It's not going to be illegal to read The Witcher or be a fan of The Witcher. No matter what, bud. Just getting that out there. Because that's what you're arguing, whether or not you actually think it actually means that if The Witcher is illegal, all of that would have to be illegal, right? Yeah, so no, just stop being retarded on this, because you're just a stuck-up loser when it comes to this. I'm just saying, you could not be a little bitch sometimes. It's not that hard. But like, the reason why, like, I say that, right, is because obviously, like, he's saying you should have to get the rights from the creator of like whatever you're adapting. Now, in the way I view it, right, like adaptations and like projects that are not the same and are productively different in a major enough way, otherwise known as the fair use clause, which of course would require it to be transformative and original, right? But not necessarily completely original, right? You know what I mean? Like, so fair use, Wizard of Oz, right? We take the same story of the book, but we do it a different way than the 1939 movie. That's okay. Now, funnily enough, this is how the public domain works, right? If you make something from the public domain, you still own that thing. You just don't own the things in it in their totality. You own the thing you made. So if someone wants to, for example, make that thing, but again, but they make it differently in a little bit, and it's different enough in like either the cinematography or the color grading or acting, whatever, that it counts as its own unique movie. Well, what's the problem with that? Now, his rebuttal is that a lot of these other movies were kind of mid, and he is correct. But so were a lot of the movies before the 1939 movie, right? So how do we even know that we were going to get a good one in the first place? Well, it turns out we didn't. We didn't even know, because until we got one, they were kind of, but like they were good, right? They were good enough, but they were kind of right? And that's really what it comes down to. We should need original stories, but we shouldn't limit like the universe or whatever to the creator. We should limit the exact stories and the canon to the creator, as in the creator decides like what's official, right? Like Akira Toriyama decides what's official in Dragon Ball. I think that's fair. But people creating things like, I don't know, Dragon Ball Heroes or GT, right, should be okay, as long as they are allowed to be made, but the creator, Akira Toriyama, had the final say of what's canon. See, this is what we call fan art or fan fiction. Now, a lot of it is bad, and some of it is good. Now, the way I see it, and the only difference between like what Razorfist is wanting and what I want is, I feel if it's original enough, you shouldn't need to ask permissione to adapt certain ideas that are alike. Another thing I dislike is the idea of using Marvel frivolous lawsuits that no one fucking liked against their competition, to say that a comic and book series that you like should be able to be the only one that exists of the old white guy wizard type thing. Sure. No, fuck you. That is disrespectful. That is pretty despicable. I'm just gonna say, you should actually. How's this? The story you like is different enough from Witcher that you can even critique them in a way that you think your story is better. See, if they were actually the same enough for it to be a problem, you wouldn't actually be able to do that because they'd be the same fucking story, right? So you'd have too much of it be similar. You wouldn't actually be able to say that The Witcher was worse, because if you could, it has to be original enough that those similarities don't really matter to anyone with functioning neurons. And now you can argue till the cows come home that lawyers don't have functioning neurons, and I will agree with you. They don't. But see, this is where we disagree here. I see the lack of neurons of the lawyers and lawmakers and politicians as the problem. You see the lack of diversity hire DEI bullshit being applied to the sensitive, dumb, neuronless politicians, lawmakers, and lawyers that we have to deal with, is the problem, rather than their fucking lack of neurons. This is the thing. We shouldn't be sensitive to dumb people just because they're in charge. If someone's in charge and they're retarded, why are we sensitive to them, right? That's my thing, right? In fact, I don't know about you, if you know this, buddy, but there's a reason why Trump got elected. And it's not because he was an establishment candidate. He is a rhino. By definition, he is not an establishment candidate for the Republican Party. He is a Republican in name only. Now, Razorfist will dispute this but the people don't decide the party decides the people. If the people aren't agreeing with the party, then the people are the rhinos, right? Because the party is an organization. The people can go outside of the party whenever they want, right? So Donald Trump going against the grain of the party is called being an outsider, being a rhino, right? Now, that's why Trump was good. He wasn't bound to Republican loyalism of the GOP. He was bound to what he wanted, which is good. That's why he was elected, right? This is the thing, right? People wanted a rhino. People want a dino too, right? Like, who are the most popular, like, Democrats? It's like, they're definitely not the establishment Democrats. Like, yeah, so it turns out people want a non-establishment candidate. They just also kind of get doomered into the idea that they won't win, which is why Ron Paul and Rand Paul before Donald Trump also kept losing, right? Now, it turns out people just had enough hopium to push Donald Trump just a little bit further than Ron Paul ever got, which ended up getting him into the presidency. Because as it turns out, people, when you hold on to hopium long enough and hard enough, it eventually works. It takes a while. Now, of course, that's for the the overturning of an establishment, not what libertarians have tried to do, which is get to the president's seat from the fucking beginning. No, it turns out the Electoral College is a thing. And actually politicians can overturn the state's vote. Funny enough, that is a thing. You can look it up. That actually is like a major issue. That's been with it since the beginning. There are a couple states where that's illegal for politicians to do. And the price of doing that is a fine and potential jail time, but very small. Yeah, that's actually a thing. They can do it, and even the states that it's criminalized in, it's kind of like chump change and maybe some jail time if they're really pressed on it, right? As in, it's basically legal, right? Even when it's illegal. That's how fucked up that part of it is, right? Which is why I don't really see the idea of voter fraud really being a thing. Because why would the Democratic Party arrange fake voters when the fake voters don't even vote? Like, why not just use the only real voters, which are the politicians, right to overturn their state's vote, right? He never thinks of that because he doesn't know how the Electoral College works or the actual problem with it. Because that's actually a problem that they can just overturn everyone who voted for. Like, let's say everyone voted for Trump, but like all the politicians were Democrats. And they said no. That's pretty bad, right? Now, obviously, the state picking the president is good. The problem is the idea that like the politician can do that at any time. They can, right? They have to all agree to do it, mind you. So the default is the one the people who voted went with, right? And the politicians can override it if they all agree, kind of like a jury case, right? If 100% of them agree, it's overturned, and those votes, however many there are, go to the other candidate, whoever it is. Which is why libertarians running for president a bunch are never going to win, because you got to run for local elections, guys. Just saying, the president isn't the only election that matters. In fact, it's probably the least mattering election, really. Like, outside of this election, I don't even think I've ever even really been invested in a presidential election. That's just because the economy sucks so bad under Biden. Now, granted, most of that was due to problems with overseas, because as it turns out, COVID, ruining the lives of people in lithium mines and coal mines and all that shit overseas. Not coal mines, but like lithium mines and all that overseas. Fucks up a lot of things. So like we got less silicon, we got less lithium, we got all these less of a lot of things that are needed for economies to function, and a lot less farmers, because people tend to work on farming less when there's airborne pathogens that they could get sick by. Even though they're probably the least likely to die from it, they also can't work while sick, because the way viruses work, they can't just touch fucking food effectively. So that's like the reason why a lot of things go down when there's a disease like that. Now they tend to reset after a bit. So we don't know if it was Biden or just COVID. I don't fucking care though, because all I know is I heard Kamala say she's going to do the exact same shit, and yeah, that made me not vote for her, because whether or not Biden fucked up the economy's fucked up, and she's saying she would do the same thing he's doing. So maybe that wasn't the problem. My brain don't care. I'm voting for not you because I'm voting for not this. And so, that's the thing. It's a lizard brain way to work. Dumb, stupid lizard brain, but it's how most people function. Turns out, if they're living like shit in hell, they don't like that. So, if there's a person promising them the same living conditions, basically, which is what Kamala was effectively saying, they don't like that, so they're going to vote for not that. And so that's what we did. That's how Trump won, not just a landslide election, but also the popular vote, which is the first time a Republican has even done that in God knows how fucking long. Definitely not in my lifetime. I'm 30, so it's been a while. So yeah, keep in mind that's the level of Kamala was fucked before she even began, right? But at the same time, I don't really think Kamala would have been a good president. My thing is, I don't think Trump is either. let's face it, the president isn't even that big of a deal. What's a big of a deal is local elections, right? Like the state, the mayor, right? Like New York City, right? Like I think the New York City mayor is a pretty bad person. I'm just gonna say that. I mean, look how fucking shitty that city was run. Yeah, like that's my thing, right? Like for me, just the way a lot of these cities are run is objectively horrible. Now, I live in farmland now because I finally got free from the city life and I am enjoying the fuck out of it. It's great. Everyone should do it, but not really because you can't. Because unlike a lot of rural elitists, I know that urban is where most people kind of have to be, because that's what urban is where most of the people are at. So I know that 99% of Nevada is always going to be in Vegas. You know, like it's not that Vegas is really like that big of a deal. It's just that, you know, outside of Vegas, there's 100,000 miles of desert. And then there's a gas station, and then the gas station, there's a little bit of prickly, spike things on the road, and then there's a bunch of cannibals that live there, and then the gas station attendant blows his brains out, and that's called The Hills of Ice remake, and that's basically like how that movie got made. Is that Nevada is basically Las Vegas and nothing else. For miles upon miles upon miles. And when you get to something that isn't Vegas in Nevada, it tends to be like, just like a couple little specks of people. And that's it. So like, the reason why, that's pretty bad, but that's how Nevada is. Like it's just Nevada. Like most states aren't like that. There are plenty of desert states that actually have land and like towns that aren't just one city. But this is Nevada, where pretty much everything's all in one place. It's just because of how it was built. Or God built it, because like honestly, a large portion of that is also the land is pretty much unlivable in most places in Nevada. Like you go in like a couple miles away from Vegas, and you get to like 200 miles of who the fuck knows what the fuck you're looking at. It's all red and sandy. And then there, and like the sun's beating hot. It's not fun. Nevada is a boring state with a very fun midsection. It's like Warframe, right? It gets good 100 hours in. Let's just say it gets good 100 hours in for 2 hours, and it's insanely good. But then it's back to the mid that you experienced for the rest of it, for the next 100 hours, and then you're done. That would be Nevada in a nutshell. Razorfist is just wrong on his over defensive copyright, because he's like, I guess he thinks that like we won't notice that he's attributing the perfectly legitimate use of not wanting the exact same work to make money from someone else, which is what's known as theft, right? Like if someone like legit just takes your shit, doesn't change it at all, and then tries to sell it for money, that's bad, but that's the exact same thing that they're selling. It's not transformative at that point, right? Like my thing on AI and stuff, right? Is overfitted AI is bad and it should be banned, but not overfitted AI is good and should be promoted. because as it turns out, the problem with AI is that it generates stuff that's exactly the same sometimes. When it doesn't, I honestly do not give a flying fuck. I could not give a single rat's anus about the quality or whatever, or the slight similarities in style of AI art. Because as it turns out, in my worldview, you own the exact thing and things that are incredibly similar to it. Not, not a recreation that is similar but different enough to be clearly original in enough ways that it isn't the exact same thing, right? So, we don't need, for me, we shouldn't need a special, it goes out of copyright after a certain while, um, remake eventually, right? Like we should be able to do whatever, whenever, right? Like, the Winnie the Pooh horror movies should not have been, had to delay because Disney would stab them with a pencil if they made the movies. No, in fact, what should have happened is the movies should have always been legal. But if they made the movies, they couldn't make Winnie the Pooh, Huffalumps, and Woozles, right? To the exact degree that Disney did. They would have to make different enough, which if the horror movie would pretty much be guaranteed. But there are other ways that they could do it where it could kind of skirt it and still be legal in the eyes of a moral copyright system, but not necessarily in the bullshit we have today. And see, this is the thing. Razorfist defends this because otherwise he would have to admit that The Witcher is not infringing on his favorite comics copyright. But he doesn't want to do that because that would be consistent with a argument that worked and made sense with the Wizard of Oz argument he did in his public domain his ass video. He doesn't want to do that because that would be smart and have integrity and be consistent morally, scientifically, whatever objectivity standard you want. The guy is a bit of a soy boy when it comes to things that he's objectively proven wrong on, and it's kind of getting annoying at this point. Let's just face it; it's just annoying. Now, I honestly don't care really, like what people like make if there's some form of originality to it, I don't care. Licenses, whatever, I don't fucking care. There should if it's original enough and it's clearly not just you shout out the exact same thing, I'm all for making money off of it. It's your idea, right? Is it sure, but is it your idea? Yeah, okay, then there we go. If it's clearly the exact same thing, sure. But if it's not, I don't care how similar it is, honestly. As long as there's something original about it, I don't give a flying fuck. And anyone with a brain would say the exact same thing. Because as it turns out, right, like people are like, slop. I mean, how many slop YouTubers are there, right? Slop sucks, but you know what the cool thing about slop is, right? As the slop thickens, the actual content becomes more visible and better, right? See, if in a world full of pyrocynicals and quarterings, you should know that that allows you to stand out by being a decent YouTuber and not producing slop content that no one really likes, but it holds itself in the algorithm because it just is easy to make and you don't have to put much effort into it. So yeah, slop. Thanks for stopping by.